Hey everyone, it's Levi, and I'm back with my 1,000 hour Spanish update video. I'm pretty excited to be here. Um, I do have a rough plan for today, just like what I'll talk about. I just kind of want to talk about what I've been doing over the past 200 hours, and just generally talk about what I can't do, what I can do, and my plan moving forward. You'll see me looking to the side of the screen a little bit, and that's because I do have some notes, but I think I'd just like to start with what I've been doing over the past 200 hours. I've mostly just been listening. I have had some conversations, so I would say from 8 to 900 hours, I was having weekly or bi-weekly conversations with a tutor on italki, and I'll get into kind of how that went a little bit later, but I haven't been doing it too much over the past 100, so from 900 to 1,000 hours. I have started reading more, and I've been reading novels, but I've been using my Kindle, and I found that to be very useful to access a little bit higher level literature, um, and by higher I mean like like higher levels of elementary kind of literature. It's helpful because I can look up definitions of word on the go and kind of move on. And one big thing that I've been doing, which I briefly touched on my 800-hour video, is I've been sentence mining with Anki. And for anyone who doesn't know, or anyone who hasn't watched my last video, like what sentence mining is you're making sentence cards for one vocabulary word you don't know, and your sentence card is ideally I plus one. And like what I plus one means is you understand the entire sentence minus the one word that you're making the card for, right? So, and kind of the concept behind this isn't to acquire vocabulary, like most people would assume. Yet it's to, Refold uses this concept of seeding. And I think it's a really accurate way to describe what sentence mining is for. And what seeding does is it doesn't make you learn the word, but it gives you like a mental entry, and it kind of plants that, quote unquote seed in your mind, and it helps you with recognition of that word during your immersion. And over the past 200 hours, I have definitely found that to be true. For anyone who watched my last video, I was a little apprehensive with starting sentence mining because of kind of the toxic relationship I had with it when I was learning my first foreign language, which was Japanese. But I've developed a much healthier relationship with it now. Like I've been making anywhere from 6 to 10 cards. Like it really varies, but like my reviews are 10 to 15 minutes a day. So I found that to be a really good sweet spot. And like during my immersion, whether I'm reading or watching something or reading or listening to a podcast, I've noticed that I'm recognizing a lot of these words that I made cards for, and it's really helped me access higher level content, and I do think it's helped me progress faster as well. I would definitely recommend it to anyone who is kind of looking for an active component to their language learning journey, Spanish or otherwise. Um, for those who are doing Dreaming Spanish, really comprehensible input style learning, but specifically Dreaming Spanish, I wouldn't recommend it to people who are less than, I don't know, I'd say maybe 600 hours. Um, but because you don't really need it, because a lot of the vocab that you're picking up is like really basic stuff. But after that, I really do think it helps to pick up that less frequency, those less common words. I really think it aids you in acquiring some of those a little bit faster. Definitely not necessary, but I've really enjoyed it. And I've also found that, so there's two sides of sentence mining, right? Like one is the reviews, right? Obviously on Anki, but the other side is making the sentence cards. And I found that um, I found a really streamlined way to make sentence cards. I just followed a tutorial on Refold. Um, so if you're interested, I do the same. But I found that during my immersion, I am much more concentrated because I'm constantly looking for sentence cards to add to my deck. And honestly, I think that might be the biggest advantage of sentence mining for me. But I'll move on from that a little bit, and kind of what I wanted to do next is I wanted to talk about Dreaming Spanish. And I'm not really exclusively using Dreaming Spanish. Well, I'm not exclusively using it by any means, but really what I'm using is a comprehensible input approach. But that being said, I do use Dreaming Spanish's tracking, like hour tracking software, and I kind of look at their like level descriptions, right? This is what you can do, and this is what you need to do, just to kind of track myself, as well as it helps to have some goals along the way. And with an input style approach, it can be hard, you know. So I like Dreaming Spanish for that reason, because it does give you milestones, like it gives you markers to work towards, and I do really like that. But the one thing um, it's not that I don't like, it's that I would precaution people about, is that when you are reading somebody else's standard, right? Like right now, here to my side, I have Dreaming Spanish's level 6 kind of expectations pulled up, like what you should be able to do. And if a lot of people are using this as their bedrock for learning Spanish, like it can be motivating, but it can also be demotivating, because for a lot of people, I think you're not going to hit all these points, like regarding what Dreaming Spanish says you should be able to do. And that's the same for me. So I kind of wanted to share my experiences, and I'm just going to kind of read through this paragraph bit by bit and just try to be honest about where I'm at, you know, because I know how easy it can be to get down on yourself because you're not meeting expectations, or you think other people are making progress faster than you. Like there's a lot of people making, you know, language update videos just like the one I'm making, and some of them are very good language learners and they make fast progress. Some of them are very blunt and honest, and some of them probably exaggerate their progress a little bit. And some of those exaggerations, you know, it's natural for us to compare ourselves to other humans, and some of those exaggerations can really bring us down at times. I know it's brought me down. So, yeah, I'll just get straight to it. The first part, it says you can really have fun with the language at this point. This point is definitely true. Like, whether I'm watching YouTube or watching TV shows within my domain, and by my domain I mean the kind of content that I consume regularly. Like if it's TV shows, kind of slice of life type stuff, specifically from Mexico. Mexico's the I'm pursuing Mexican Spanish, right? So that, and like YouTubers that I watch consistently, or not even just those YouTubers, but other YouTubers who talk about similar topics. I found that I can watch them at an enjoyable level. You know, it's no longer just about learning. There's an enjoyment factor there. So I mean, that's been super motivating, and you know that point is definitely true for me, at least. Moving down the list. You are conversationally fluent for daily purposes of living in the country, and you can get by at the bank, at the hospital, at the post office, or looking for an apartment to rent. See, this is where it gets sticky, you know, because there's a lot wrapped in to that statement. Am I, like, do I think I can get by? I think I could get by. I still struggle a lot with both vocab recall and just not having progressed my overall like past the vocabulary up to the point where I can use it actively. And kind of tied into that is grammar, right? Like I still don't have a mastery of the grammar. So like phrasing words or using the proper form of adjectives, of verbs, it still doesn't come naturally. I really have to think about it, and a lot of times like I just kind of draw a blank. But I can get my point across, but do I consider myself to be conversationally fluent? Not by any means. I'm definitely not there. Yeah. Kind of moving on here. The next point. Sorry, my computer went to sleep. In spite of that odd word that is not quite there when you need it, you can always manage to get your point across in one way or another, and by now you're already making complex, longer phrases. Yeah, I think I can get my point across one way or another, but I wouldn't say that I'm making complex, longer phrases. And then kind of feeding into the next sentences. At this level, for the first time, you start feeling like you're actually thinking about what you want to say and not about how you want to say it. Yeah, that's not true for me. I'm still definitely thinking about how I want to say things. It's still not natural. I would be surprised if I talked to other Spanish learners at this 1,000-hour point and they were truly like this. My first language that I pursued, like I said, was Japanese, and my level of Japanese is higher than my current Spanish level, and it took me a long time to actually get to like that point where I was thinking about what I wanted to say, and I still don't know if I'm really there in Japanese, but that takes a long time, and I don't really think that's an accurate statement for this level, in my opinion. Using humor in the language is much easier now. That's a bit ambiguous because, it's always going to be easier as you get better. You can understand TV shows about daily life quite well, 80 to 90%. Shows about families, friends, etc. Unscripted shows will usually also be easier to understand than scripted shows, as long as they are not too chaotic or rely too much on cultural knowledge. This statement I would agree with. Like, TV shows about daily life, 80-90%, absolutely. Especially if I have subtitles, Spanish subtitles. I do use subs a lot, but yeah, I definitely agree with that statement. I can understand at a pretty high level. So that was pretty much all they had to say. And again, I just kind of shared that to give some perspective because I don't think a lot of these points are super realistic for somebody at 1,000 hours. And I think there's a lot of people out there that would agree with me. So, but I'll move on from that. Enough of what they have to say, and I'll kind of get more specific about my stuff. I kind of talked about in there like what I can't do, right? Those were really highlights of what I still cannot do. But like what I can do is I've found that I've gotten much better at reading. I can read roughly at a 8. Probably more than that. At like a 10-year-old level. A formula that I've come up with myself, and this is not by any means comprehensive. It fails a lot of the time, but it's been a good guide for me. Is every 100th hour I have of input is the age level that I can read at. So another way of thinking about this is for every 100th hour, you divide that by 100, and that is the age at which you should read at. So for example, I'm at 1,000 hours now. Divide that by 100, and that's a 10-year-old level. And I've found that to be true, and I think that's kind of my ceiling. I've tried to go above that, books kind of aimed at like 10 to 12, and those have been difficult. But if I kind of stay at reading books that are like geared towards 8 to 10-year-olds, that's kind of been perfect for me. And I do read on Kindle, so I can look up words on the go to kind of stay with the story if I ever get lost. But yeah, reading has definitely been the big bump for me, and not just like reading short articles, but reading books, right? And I talked about YouTube. I talked about slice of life shows. I can understand those pretty well. Um, yeah, I mean the big thing missing here is conversation, and I do plan on reintroducing that. Like I said earlier in this video, I think um, I I was kind of having weekly or bi-weekly, kind of depending on how busy I was, but I was having weekly or bi-weekly conversations on italki, um, from like 800 hours to 900 hours, and I was struggling, pretty hard, and I really slowed down. I probably only had one or two conversation practices from 900 hours to 1,000 hours. So my plan moving forward is I would like to kind of reintroduce that. I'm not in any kind of hurry. Usually, if I have a few conversations, like 2 or 3 conversations, and they don't have to be long, like 30 minutes apiece. But if I just have a few conversations, I found that I kind of see if I'm ready. And for me, everyone's different. Some people like talking from day one, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Like, you do you, like whatever keeps you motivated, keeps you going. But at least with me, that doesn't really motivate me. Like, constant failure at producing language doesn't motivate me. And honestly, I think we're all going to get to roughly the same point at the same time. Like, I don't think there's a shortcut. I don't think you can start outputting from day one and suddenly be fluent at, I don't know, 1,000 hours versus somebody who did like a strictly listening approach and got fluent by 2,000 hours. Like, I don't think you can cut 1,000 hours off. I don't think there's any shortcuts in this. This is just my approach. I don't like outputting when I still can't speak any Spanish. So I think after just 2 or 3 lessons, I'll kind of have a better idea of really where I'm at. And kind of the gauge I use is if I'm having a problem with vocab recall, that's perfect. That's where you want to be at, because that's where you actively are training your mind to like recall those words that you have learned during your immersion, like to kind of activate that passive vocabulary. But if it's not just word recall, like I don't know which word to use, and even when I'm prompted by my tutor, I'm still like kind of unsure. That's how I know that my vocabulary isn't quite there yet. And the same goes with grammar, right? If I can't think of the forms I need to use of words, and like prompting from my instructor doesn't just set off a light bulb, then I know I'm not ready. At that point, it's not activating passive knowledge. It's that passive knowledge isn't there yet. So we'll see where I'm at with conversation. I do kind of plan on using some AI software, or at least trying it out. Langua, I did like a 1 day kind of practice trial with Langua, and I was fairly impressed. I do plan on using it a little bit, not as a substitute for humans by any means, but just one, it's cheaper, and two, I do think it can be a good tool just to kind of help you start activating some of that passive vocabulary, just start the act of speaking the language that you want to speak, without having to spend a ton of money, and being able to do it exactly on your time, and without having the pressure. Like, the pressure will come later. But I just kind of want to be able to start speaking with that, that pressure element removed. Because if you can't do it without the pressure, you sure as heck can't do it with the pressure. So that's kind of my plan moving forward with conversation. And then with reading, I want to pick up reading. I think it's a really powerful tool to expand your vocabulary. And especially once you get to the higher levels of a language, I think reading can really be that catalyst to take you to the next level. Reading and conversation. So I want to do those two things, and I'll probably check in again at around 1,200 hours. And yeah, same as always. If you have anything to add, if you want to share experiences of yours, or if you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments. The whole reason I'm doing this is both to create a record for myself so I can see my own progress, but also to connect with other language learners, because really, when you look on like an international scale, it's still a pretty small community. So yeah, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you at 1200 hours. See ya.